Be'ezus Hashem is starting today the introduction to Masechta Chala, and with this, we'd like to start with the Psukim in Parsha Shlach, Parak Tezvav, Pasuk Yud Zayin through Chaf Aleph. The Pasuk says, "Azoi ve'dabra Hashem l'Moshe Leima." Hashem spoke to Moshe, "Dabra al b'nei Yisrael, speak to Klal Yisrael, v'amarta aleim, and you should say to them, B'vayachem ala oretz asher ani mevi eschem shama. When you come to the land to which I am bringing you, v'hoya ba'acholchem ilechem ha'oretz tarimu truma l'Hashem. It shall be when you eat from the bread of the land, you shall separate truma for Hashem. Reishas arisei seichem chala tarimu truma ke trumas geiren kein tarimu oisa. The first of your doughs, a loaf. Reishas arisei seichem means the first of your doughs. Chala tarimu, a loaf you shall separate as truma, like the truma of the threshing floor, ke trumas geiren kein tarimu oisa. So shall you separate it. Reishas arisei seichem tidnu l'Hashem truma l'derei seichem. From the first of your doughs shall you give to Hashem truma for your generations. The Torah teaches that one who's preparing bread must separate a portion of the dough and give it to a kohen. That portion is known as chala, which literally means a small loaf. So what is exactly the chiyuv of chala? The chiyuv of chala applies to dough made of flour milled from any of the five chameshus minei dagan: wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and rye. The dough must be fit for human consumption. Dough fit for consumption only by animals is not mechuyev on chala. According to one shita, even dough fit for humans is parted from chala if it's intended only for consumption by animals. The dough must be owned by a yid and may not be property of a goy. Dough belonging to a goy or that has been mukdash to the Beis Hamikdash is not going to be mechuyev on chala. Truma is also parted from the chiyuv of chala. What's the shear of the dough that you're mechuyev to take challah from? For a dough to be subject to challah, must contain the volume of at least 43.2 average size hen's eggs, which is 1 1/4 kav of flour. These are referred to throughout the Masechta as chameshus revoim of kamach. Dough is not subject to challah unless it falls under the classification of bread, which includes all doughs that are baked, but excludes those that are cooked or fried. According to some shitas, a thick kneaded dough is considered bread even if it's intended for frying, not baking, for example, let's say donuts. Others say that even a thick dough is patur from challah if the intention when it was kneaded was that it should be cooked or fried. This is how it's passed in the Shulchan Aruch, Yeridea, Simishin, Chavtes. All agree, however, that a thick dough that was originally intended for baking is mechuyev on challah even if it was later cooked or fried. The chiyuv of challah takes effect when the dough is thoroughly kneaded and made into a single mass, into one lump. But if one didn't separate challah until after the bread had been baked, it must be separated after baking. In the case of thin batters that are mixed rather than kneaded, such as those used in cakes, the chiyuv takes effect with the baking and the challah is separated after it baked. Right, so it's possible to take challah after you bake something. Although the chiyuv to separate challah does not take effect until the dough is kneaded, if the challah was separated earlier, after the flour was mixed with water, it's still good. However, midiraisa, one should not separate challah before the challah takes effect, before the chiyuv of challah takes effect. Nevertheless, the chachamim enacted, they were masakin, that when preparing a dough that's tahar, one should initially separate challah when he pours the water into the flour. The chachamim were concerned that if one were to wait to take challah until the chiyuv takes effect, the dough would become tameh in the meantime, and the challah would have to be burnt. Bizban Azer, though, this takana d'Rabbanan is no longer relevant, for it's not possible to prepare tahar dough since we're all presumed to be tameh meis, and we do not possess the means to purify ourselves from this type of tumah. So it's preferable to wait to separate challah until the chiyuv of challah takes effect. Once the dough is thoroughly kneaded and the challah obligation takes effect, the dough is tevel and is usher to be eaten midiraisa. One who eats tevel from the dough is chayiv misa b'dei shemayim, as we'll see in the Masechta. The owner of the dough is mechuyev to separate challah. Nevertheless, it's the specific responsibility of the woman of the household to perform this mitzvah. For this reason, many of the Mishnayos throughout the Masechta discuss the case of women who are separating challah. Right, the three mitzvahs that are woman is mechuyev in is halakas meiris Shabbos and nida and challah. The Torah does not require that a specific amount be separated for the challah. One may separate a portion as large or as small as he wishes, as long as he does not designate the entire dough as challah. The Chacham, however, set a minimum measure of 1/24 of the dough for one who's baking for himself, and 1/48 of the dough for someone who's baking to sell the bread. These shiur midrabanan apply only when the dough is tahar. When it's tameh, even a balabayas doesn't need to take more than a 48th. Since the challah will be burned in any case, the chachamim did not require a larger amount. Many of the halachas of separating truma also apply to challah. For example, just like truma, challah may be designated only for dough that's close by. Min hamukaf. When separating challah, one recites a bracha. Just like a person who makes, just like on truma. Others have the minhag to say both challah and truma, because there's a shita that says that you should make a bracha lahafresh truma or lahafresh challah. So obviously, this is not the ikar mitzvah of truma; it's truma of dough in a sense. But we refer to it as challah, so the bracha would be lahafresh challah. Just like truma, the challah portion is given to a kohen. In general, the halacha pertaining to eating truma pertains to challah as well. So challah may be eaten only by a kohen and the members of his family, which his wife and his children, who are kahanim themselves, his unmarried daughters, and his avadim kananim. A non-kohen who eats challah b'mezid is chayav misa b'dei shemayim. A non-kohen who eats challah by mistake must replace it with a portion of dough equivalent in value to the challah he ate, plus a chaymesh, as we spoke by truma as well. A kohen who is tameh may not eat challah. If a kohen who is tameh intentionally eats challah, he's also mechuyev misa b'dei shemayim. Like truma that became tameh, challah that became tameh may not be eaten. Nevertheless, it's given to a kohen who's obligated to burn it. The kohen may benefit from its burning. He may use it as fuel for a fire. A non-kohen may not benefit from its burning. Today, however, kohanim do not have any definite proof of their lineage, of their yichus. Therefore, the challah is not given to a kohen to burn. Everybody just burns it on their own. We are obligated to safeguard challah from all forms of destruction or tumah. We know this from the pasuk that says, "Va'ani hinei nasati lecha es mishmeres trumoisai." Behold, I have given you to safeguard my trumas, and from the pasuk b'chol kodesh leisiga, any holy food she shall not touch when she's tameh. So we know that we have to go out of our way to protect and safeguard all forms of challah from becoming tameh or getting destroyed. Min haTorah, the chiyuv of challah applies only in Eretz Yisrael and not in Chutz La'aretz. Nevertheless, the chachamim were masaken. The challah should be separated even outside Eretz Yisrael. The actual chiyuv d'Rabbanan is to separate two challah portions, one which is burnt and the other that's given to a kohen who may eat it even if he's tameh. Nowadays, though, when even Eretz Yisrael challah is not eaten due to tumah, the custom is, even outside Eretz Yisrael, is to separate only a single portion of challah which is burnt. The chiyuv of challah outside of Eretz Yisrael is mechuyev. It has a bunch of different kulas. For example, while a kohen may not eat challah of Eretz Yisrael if he or the challah is tameh, the Rabbanan were matter a kohen, or remember, the kohen's household to eat a challah outside Eretz Yisrael, meaning that portion of challah that would otherwise be burnt, even though it's tameh, as a result of the din d'Rabbanan, that the state of tumah that exists outside of Eretz Yisrael were more makel with. Moreover, they allowed even a kohen who is tameh to eat this portion as long as he's not tameh with the type of tumah hayoytim min haguf. Some shittas hold, however, that in practice one should not give challah to a kohen to eat because it's not possible to figure out the yichus of exactly what the kohen is, and it seems that is what the minhag is nowadays. According to most shittas, even in Eretz Yisrael, the chiyuv of challah midaraisa applies only when the majority of Klal Yisrael is living in Eretz Yisrael, and that has not been the case since the destruction of the first base of Mikdash. Therefore, even in Eretz Yisrael, the chiyuv to separate challah in our times altogether is midrabanan. The Gemara Shabbos on the Avlamed Beis says that if people keep the mitzvah of challah, their stored produce will be blessed, like the pasuk says, "You shall give the first of your doughs to the kohen, so that a blessing will rest in your house." The reward corresponds with the fulfillment of the mitzvah. By being mekadosh a portion of the finished dough, he's rewarded with the blessing bestowed upon his finished produce. The full observance of the chiyuv of challah must wait for the coming of Mashiach and kibbutz golius. And our tefillah is that in the schus of learning this mesechta, we should be zeicha to see the coming of Mashiach and the Geula Shlema of B'mher v'Yameinu Amen.